a strong win for Jacques Kerry.
President Bush wins re-election tomorrow night, takes roughly 290 electoral votes. If you need the exact number, Tony, I'll say 286.
Charlie Gerow is with us right now. You were a young staffer with President Reagan way back when. How old were you when and this was your first job, to work in the White House or
My
associated?
first job out of law school was working on the campaign staff of President, then Governor Reagan, 24, 25 years old, right out of Villanova Law School, and a great opportunity, and I've had the chance to work with him right up to his last public appearance.
You've been so helpful to us tonight, Charlie Gerow. Just a final thought, just something to leave us with, your memories of the president.
Well, they're warm and fond memories, as they are for every American. He touched the hearts and lives of so many of us and of his fellow countrymen with his warmth, with his sincerity, with his incredible optimism, with his strong belief in principles, and with his kind hand on everybody's shoulder.
Well, tonight we are joined live by two men on either side of the aisle. Robert Gibbs is Senator Obama's communications director, and Charlie Gerow is a Republican political insider here at CBS 21. All right, and going off the economy just for a second here, my second question to you both tonight is the candidates' responses to how they felt the lessons of Iraq were being felt around the nation. And Mr. Gibbs, let's go ahead and begin with you with Senator Obama's response to that.
Well, look, I don't think there's any doubt the most powerful moment in this debate is when Barack Obama turned to John McCain and listed the judgments after judgments after judgments that John McCain's been wrong on Iraq, that we'd be greeted as liberators, that he knew where the weapons of mass destruction were, or that there wasn't a history of violence between the Shia and Sunni. Barack Obama has a plan to responsibly get us out of Iraq and to focus ourselves on the central front on the war and terror in Afghanistan and the hills of Pakistan, where Osama bin Laden lives today.
Right, Charlie, was McCain wrong on Iraq?
Robert Gibbs does a great job of reading those Democratic talking points, and Barack Obama does a great job when he's reading off the teleprompter. But when we got to the question of Iraq and we really began to scrape away the rhetoric that Barack Obama is so good at, you saw him completely fall apart. John McCain was exactly right on this. He has been right. Barack Obama wants to take us back and talk about whether or not we should have even gone into Iraq. The telling moment of this debate was when John McCain said it's not the issue for the next president to decide whether or not we should be in Iraq. The question is, what do we do now? He was on message. He showed that he is a leader prepared to be president from day one, not a pretender to the throne.
Charlie, there's a very interesting question here. You know, in recent days, most of the polls have shown, I'm not saying all, that Sestak would have better numbers against Pat Toomey in the fall. At this point, anyway, you know what at this point means. Do you think that Specter, if he is elected, could beat Toomey?
I think he could. I think the polls are also correct that Sestak's probably got a better shot against Toomey in the fall. What's interesting to me, Larry, is that the Sestak campaign took so long to get on track. My sense is, and they got the best in the business with Neil Oxman, but if they had come out a little bit earlier, a little bit stronger, this might be a different ballgame. He wasted time, complaining about Joe Vodvarka and trying to get him knocked off the ballot. An admiral in the United States Navy worrying about a candidate like that just seemed kind of odd to me. But when they got the campaign on track, they closed those numbers quickly, as we all knew they would. The question is, did they get past the finish line on Election Day?
Well, I said they had lots of help from the Democrats. To blame the national debt on Republicans is only half the story. But I think the key here tonight is already you see Steny Hoyer backpedaling on his own administration's plans for the next term. Jack's right. The Democrats and Barack Obama in particular overpromised during this campaign. Now it's going to be time to deliver. The real question will be, will Barack Obama govern on his record or on his rhetoric? His record is that he is the most liberal senator in the United States Senate.
And you know
That's
what? It didn't
objective
matter
fact.
anything.
That's not campaign rhetoric. That's the National Journal. So the question is he going to govern that way?
The American people decided that they wanted that record, and the American people elected him by a very large number.
If they want that record, if that's what you're saying, that's the record that you want, it'll be very interesting. That's never been his rhetoric, and it's not his rhetoric now.
And the thing that was interesting to me was who didn't have much money around when the reports were filed. I've been saying all along that I thought Sam Royer was going to exceed expectations in this race. He still may do that, but he's got a very serious problem at this point because he has virtually no money. You can run statewide against a favored candidate and be outspent, but you can't be outspent exponentially, as it now appears Sam Royer is going to be. I mean, he virtually is bankrupt. He's got, I think, $7,500 cash on hand. Meanwhile, his principal opponent and the putative favorite in that race has something like $4 million. I mean, you don't have to be a mathematical genius to figure that out, Francine. It's going to be very, very difficult for Sam Royer to now get to a point where he's truly competitive. On the Democratic side, it's very, very interesting. I don't think that money is the absolute controlling factor there, but as John and I were saying off the air before we went on tonight, it is, again, very difficult to fight against exponentially more spending by another candidate.